Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is now just under 6 months away from its official release date by director J.J. Abrams that is all set and ready to end the sequel trilogy and the Skywalker saga itself. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. So what's really intriguing about Episode 9 is that we do know that this film, at the end of the day, is the culmination of the Skywalker saga, and that Disney and Lucasfilm are not just treating this movie as a sequel to both The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, but as a sequel to the past 8 Star Wars movies as a whole. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and what really is very exciting about Episode 9 is how George Lucas is attached to this movie. Now, what's really interesting about all of this is that it's described that during the rewrites of the film, during the months of November and December of 2018, is when George Lucas was involved in a significant way for the second and third acts of the story, to fix many elements of the story and to change certain characters. It's described that one of the characters that George worked very hard on was the character of Luke Skywalker, where George was the one responsible for changing how the fans will feel and react toward the character in The Rise of Skywalker. Additionally, it's said that George is also currently involved with post-production of the film and the reshoots, and that George is the one fixing and changing elements of how Luke would be used in the form of flashbacks and as a Force ghost. Additionally, it's said that one of the scenes that George worked hard on was a sequence involving a flashback of Luke set between the events of Episode 6 and Episode 7, where George's plan was to de-age Mark Hamill to create a bridge between the Luke fans know in the originals and the controversial Luke in the sequel trilogy. It's said that it was George who allowed some form of action for the character of Luke in Episode 9 to provide great payoff within the second and third acts of the film. George is said to be invested in the editing process of the scenes attached to Luke Skywalker and how it should be cut and put together. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, we do know that Episode 9 is really going to be a film that's going to cater to nostalgia and is going to cater to past elements of the other Star Wars films. And a lot of that has all to do with George Lucas. Now, as far as the character of Luke Skywalker goes, and how George is trying to fix certain elements of the character, I think is one of the strong points of this movie. And not just that, the return of Palpatine and how he's going to be used was actually used by George Lucas himself. He was the one who actually came up with the idea of exactly how Palpatine should be used in The Rise of Skywalker, so there's also that. As far as Luke Skywalker goes, you know, the fact that they are fixing elements of the character, that could very well be Disney and Lucasfilm admitting, you know, in a low-key way of the fact that they may have been wrong in The Last Jedi. If you guys like The Last Jedi, that's perfectly fine and all. I had a lot of issues with the movie. You know, when I look at the character of Luke, and I don't know if you guys disagree or agree with me, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this, but when I was watching The Last Jedi, it was almost as if Mark Hamill was just acting as Mark Hamill, as opposed to Mark Hamill acting as Luke Skywalker. I don't know, that's just how I felt. You know, there were moments where you could see him as Luke in the third act. I think that Luke was his truest character, I would say, within the third act of Episode 8 when he's on Crate. That felt like the more true version of Luke Skywalker, at least the way he was talking, how he was more hopeful, the way he looked, he was slimmer, the shorter hair, everything. It just seemed more true to the character of Luke in the third act. So, moving on forward, the thing about George, the fact that he's attached to this film and is fixing many elements of the character of Luke Skywalker, and is the one who even came up with the concept of de-aging Mark Hamill, for one of the scenes that's going to give us a bridge between the originals and the sequels, and providing a version of Luke that we have never seen before on the big screen. So I think that's going to be another amazing part of Episode 9, is that we the fans are going to see a different version of Luke that we have never seen before on the big screen. Sure, in the originals we have a young version, and in the sequels we have a far older version, as well as a middle-aged version of Luke in the form of a flashback, right? However, in this scenario, George Lucas is giving something different, a different medium of the character of Luke Skywalker in Episode 9 that we will actually not expect to see. This most likely attaches to one of the leaks that we went over, where it's said to include a sequence where Luke Skywalker is training Leia through the ways of the Force and the Jedi, and pretty much telling her the knowledge of it all, and that's going to lead to a moment in which we understand as to why Leia did not accept to become a Jedi. That's actually said to include a moment where we do get to see a far younger version of both Luke and Leia, but at the same exact time that they are older than they were in Return of the Jedi, if that makes sense. So, the last thing that I do want to go over is how George Lucas, he's really involved with this film. It almost seems like that Disney and Lucasfilm are desperate. This seems like a desperate attempt to attract the fans and to really fill in the theater seats. And it's going to work as long as the movie's very well done, and if it works perfectly, and you can really see George and his work in the film, which I think is going to be very transparent the minute that we go ahead and see this film. So I would love to have, everybody, comment below. Let me know what you think about all this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon.